Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tips, tools, and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. Today I have guest Kim Curtis. Kim is a nationally recognized wealth management advisor, public speaker, president, and CEO of Wealth Legacy Institute. She is also the best-selling author of Money Secrets: Keys to Smart Investing. Kim is proud to have created a firm where she can truly put her clients first, bringing them into alignment with their financial needs, and as a result, she finds true joy in her work. How you deal with money says a lot about how you deal with life. And Kim's passionate about helping others find balance in their bank accounts. Welcome, Kim. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
I love that. I love that. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks for having me.
So you and I are going to talk about fostering a relationship with prosperity, the love and money connection. So many of us have a love-hate relationship with money, right? And we may have limited belief systems that stem all the way back to our childhood around how we attract money in our lives. And so based off of my personal and professional experience, many have the mindset that money is difficult to make or keep, right? Or we hold on to limited beliefs around our abundance and prosperity. Like I hear oftentimes money is the root of all evil, or I have to really struggle to make ends meet. And so, Kim, you and I are going to talk about these limited mindsets today, how we change our mindsets around money. But first, let's talk about our relationship with money, because not a lot of people think about we think about relationships with others, but we don't really think about our relationship with money. So, where does our relationship with money start?
Thank you. Thank you. Money is this invisible thread that navigates through every part of our existence. So if we were to think of a battery or a flashlight, and in the flashlight are these different batteries, the very first battery is money. And then relationships and health and community. So that first battery triggers everything else. So it's interwoven directly, indirectly in relationships, fears, failures, love, struggle, dreams, successes.
Our survival needs, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, and to the very basic extent of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Yeah. Is food, clothing, shelter, all the way up to the top of that, which is self-actualization.
Absolutely. So you talk about the two laws of money. What are the two laws of money?
Yes. And I love this because
too. I'm excited to talk about anything prosperity oriented.
Thank you.
Feels good.
It does, doesn't it? Prosperity is something all of us is our birthright. And so when we think of the two laws of money, the first is the human-made laws. And that's what I do, Tanya, every day. That's wealth management, it's portfolio construction, it's tax mitigation, estate planning, cash flow, budgeting, insurance protection planning. That's the human-made laws. The natural money laws, the second law, is actually something that's inside of us already, inherent. And the natural money laws are ebb and flow, cause and effect, supply and demand, intention and desire, clear agreements.
Yeah.
All of those things naturally are inside of us, like giving and receiving. Yes. Some of us may be givers, but we don't know how to receive. And if we understand the natural money laws, because many people may understand the natural money laws, but have no money.
Yeah.
So you need to have, or you have money, but you're completely unhappy and your life is a mess. So you need them both in balance. And many people don't necessarily recognize that the natural money laws need to come forward and in balance with the human-made laws.
Absolutely. And so it is important to give and receive, because like you said, there's actually a law or a concept called the law of giving and receiving. And it states that there is a constant flow or exchange of energy. And, in order for us to amplify or expand anything in our life, we want to focus on that balance between giving and receiving. And, for some, this may seem kind of counterintuitive that, oh, I have to give to receive, or vice versa. But if we really think about it, it's almost like we are mirroring back, from one another. So, the more that we give, the more that we receive, and the more we receive, the more we give. It's just this beautiful flow of energy. And it's almost like what we put out into the world is what will return back to us. And so, many of us, people pleasers included, I'm a recovering people pleaser. I say that all the time, right? We have a hard time receiving. We get really good at giving. So then we kind of attract those in our life who are good at taking, right? And so let's talk about that beautiful balance of giving and receiving, and how important that is, when it comes to money and attracting abundance into our lives.
Yeah, well, and that also kind of stems from fear and scarcity.
Yes.
So if you have scarcity, then it will be very hard for money to find you. Because in the nature of my work as a wealth management advisor, there's one thing that I have learned more than anything else in my life, and that is that money is actually looking for you, not the other way around.
I'm over here.
That's right. It's not, I need money, or I don't have money, or I want to pay the bills. Well, maybe you'll just get enough money to pay the bills, or yes, you will need money because that's what you're attracting. So if you understand that money is looking for you, then all of a sudden it changes, it switches what goes on in your life. And so all of a sudden you become this receptor. And the way money can find you as a receptor is through your ideas, your creativity, your imagination, your dreams, to become something so that it's of use to the world. So that's really important when we think of giving and receiving. And scarcity, no, not scarcity. It's really abundance. And another natural law is ebb and flow. And when we think of ebb and flow, the capital markets go like this. They don't go, when you step back and you see this chart, how come it looks like the capital markets just go up? Well, if you zoomed in, it's like this with a long-term trend of up. So when you think of ebb and flow from the natural money laws, we love it when it flows, but when it ebbs, that's the time, particularly during the pandemic, when a lot of people were really struggling, that was the time that you focus on yourself and you gain new skills. And you develop yourself so that you're ready, particularly if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, to then go full on in the flow again. So like working on yourself, working on your business, working internally during the ebb time. So when it flows, you're ready to take it to a whole new level.
Oh, I love that. So, we all know what it feels like to be in the flow state. It's when things are just dropping in our lap, people are showing up out of the blue, and boy, does that feel good. But it's when we're not in the flow state is when we really need to tune in to, how do I get back into alignment with that flow state? And like you said, oftentimes we're learning and we're teaching. It's like in every aspect of our life, we're going through these moments where we are ebbing and flowing. And so, Kim, how do we shift our mindset about money? Like I said, many people have these childhood belief systems. I know me, I grew up, in a very, one income, parent family. And we never lacked for anything, but there was always those comments of, we can't afford that. Or, we aren't that wealthy family that can buy those things or whatnot. So how do we shift our mindsets around that, especially when many of us have had these programs start as early on as our childhood years?
Yeah, I love that. I think the best way to explain that is through my own story as it relates to, because if I can do it, believe me, all the listeners out there can do it too, because my story is that when I was a teenager, my parents got divorced and my mom got full custody of 3 teenage girls and had no employable skills. So applied for and received government assisted lunches. So my sisters and I, we each got this little red ticket that we would have to hand to the cashier in the lunch line that signified poor. And so
like
I would go to
a little scarlet letter on you, right?
Well, yeah, a scarlet tag. That's exactly right. And I would go to the furthest line. I would get my plate, and as soon as I got my plate, I'd put it on my tray and get my little ticket out of my pocket and put it underneath the plate. And as I slid down, I'd look back right before I had to pass that ticket. So think of all of those activities that I did before that ticket actually exchanged. And when you exchange it, I was certainly not looking at her in the eyes.
And all of the thoughts that you were having prior to even exchanging that ticket, right?
Shame, overwhelm,
Very
not
scary.
enough.
Yes.
My mom can't afford lunch. My dad left, all of those things. And so one thing my mom did have with her daughters, and that is she said, to make sure that you get your education because no one can take it away from you, which is what happened to my mom. So I went to undergrad and then went to law school. And within 6 months of graduating, I defaulted on my school loans.
Oh.
Like I had no business having that kind of debt because I didn't understand money, nor did I understand the impact that would have on my credit report. So I was completely in denial and unconscious around money and the money story of shame. Who am I? I'm not enough. All the things that we talk about with what those stories were that we have told ourselves based on our upbringing. So what happened is, and this is really important for the listeners, is and in today's dollars, it was about $92,000 to give you a sense of how much debt I had.
Wow.
I had a gift of an anonymous donor pay $1,000 on my school loan debt. Now, back then, that $1,000 to me was like $1 million.
Yeah,
I mean, that was like,
right.
wow, $1,000. One of the things I say all the time is that if your head is in the sand on money, your head is in the sand on other areas of your life. And so I definitely had my head in the sand around money. And so the fact that I even opened the statement was in itself a surprise that I had to even notice that it went down. So because it was anonymous, I couldn't go to that person, why me, or what do you want? I had to have that conversation with myself. So the conversation with myself was, what is it that they see, that they believe in me? What do I believe in? Who am I? And who do I want to be? And I have to tell you that it was like a snap. It was a snap. And I honestly, from that point forward, knew that whatever my future was, it was going to be different and I was in control of it. And so I think it took me out of the unconscious to the conscious. And Jack Canfield, he has an equation, E plus R equals O.
Yes.
And that we're 100% responsible for the outcomes in our life. And I think that was the first time that the events happen. I'm in debt. My school loans are defaulted. My response to that, what is the choice I'm going to make as a result of that to get a different outcome? Because my outcome was shit. It was terrible.
From your upbringing, where you were coming from, or that circumstance that you went through with the divorce with your parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so obviously it's a process, but that was the start of working my way to pay off those loans. And I'll take it a step further to help our listeners. That's a great story, Kim, but get me to the point of how do I get past this? And it actually, believe it or not, starts with self-respect, which ultimately leads to self-love. You have to love yourself first and respect yourself enough that you're likely to make different choices in those responses. And from that point forward, once I finally realized I respected myself, therefore I do have self-love, what are the different things I'm going to do now that I'm showing up in my essence of, I do have self-love, I want to be this different person. And I'm going to break the shame of the past and rise up above that and who am I going to become? And what that did immediately from the unconscious to the conscious is all of a sudden my receptors, because we have all the neuroscience, all the receptors that tell us what we need at the given time, and those receptors triggered that all of a sudden I became a receptor to wealth. And so I didn't have a finance degree, I had a law degree. My area of expertise was negotiation, mediation, and arbitration. And 10 years after that event, I went into wealth management. And I got a master's in finance and now CEO of a wealth management firm, 3 decades later. So It works. It really does work. And I had to dig myself out of a big ass hole with that debt.
I bet. And I love your story because I resonate with it too, because I myself had an anonymous donor, $10,000. It was insane. I couldn't believe it. I was a 17-year-old in high school, wasn't sure which college I wanted to go to, wasn't even sure what I wanted to major in. And then I knew it was a woman. That's all I knew. A woman gifted me this. And I had those same thoughts that you did. Why me? What do you see in me that maybe I don't see in myself? And I had to kind of go through that. It felt to me like a lot of pressure too, because it was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of money. If I don't make ends meet, if I don't become the best version of myself, what is this person that I don't even know who gave this to me, going to think about me? And so, Kim, I work with a lot of clients on a variety of topics, of course, money being one of them. And as I work through their deep-seated emotions, I often see unworthiness as a trapped emotion around money. And so I'm so glad that you brought up the importance of self-respect and self-love when it comes to our relationship with money. So, why is there that correlation there? When we are feeling unworthy or that sense of lack, we are attracting more unworthiness and more scarcity into our life. So, what are some things that we can do to kind of reprogram ourselves or shift ourselves to a more positive, worthy, deserving mindset?
One of the things that we do in our practice is we call it Humanographics, and it's basically humanity on a graph. So we plot family structure. So for the listeners, you plot your parents like a square for a man, a circle for a woman, and you go up to your grandparents, great parent, as far back as you can go, is you plot that out, and then you go down in terms of your children, and then once you structurally plot it, then you ask questions as you go for your grandparents. What was their education? What were their occupations? Did they go to church? Do you have a background in that? And the more data that you get, the uncles, aunts, what birth order was your father? Was he the baby, or was he the firstborn or the middle? Were they divorced? And what happens is, as you structurally plot it and then you ask more functional questions, you start to see what has come down through generations that may be impacting you today on how you show up around money.
Wow.
The questions around there's the black sheep. There's this. My grandfather was a tightwad. So when you start to understand that maybe how you're showing up has nothing to do with you, but could have been in the past, then it becomes more objective and easier to separate and call it out. Because remember, it's really consciousness. Once you know, you can't unknow it anymore.
Money is energy. Mm-hmm.
That's right, because money is only the value we give it. It's a human-made law. We created it, and it's only the value that you give it. So it means nothing until you give it something, and that's really important to understand. That's why it needs your ideas to turn it into something. That's really important message. That's really important. Thanks, Tanya. So I think that's the first step is plotting out to see what are the values in your family, what are the values you want to have, what are the oftentimes addiction issues come up, and different types of things that we use, because in the nature of our businesses, we could construct a portfolio that eliminates taxes through generations. But if the family can't handle the structure, we've done harm. Mm-hmm. But for the listeners to just understand who they are, what is their own and what is not, and make a conscious choice as, I don't want those addiction issues to come through the family. I don't want the divorces to come through the family. I don't want the baby get the benefit of everything, or whatever it is for whatever your family is. And then start to do something different. That's the first step. And the second is, we're wired for money. We have the receptors, which I already mentioned, and figure out what your receptors are. I have a 22-year-old son. I know what triggers his receptor when he sees a great $350,000 sports car go down the street. Like, he recognizes it, knows what it is, knows how much it costs, and sometimes he even takes a picture. So that's his receptor.
And a subconscious picture as well in his mind.
That's right. That's right. So it's a receptor. Or when we see a homeless person on the street, that's asking for money. We have a receptor. If we understand what that receptor is, then it begins to have us unpack what that story is that where did that come from? So that's what helps is when you have that receptor, know what it is and unpack it. Why do we walk across the street when there's a person on the corner begging for money? Is it because you feel bad for them, or do you think they need to get a job? Those are the things that you ask yourself to determine where you are, and then start to ask, kind of like what you and I did. Okay, who do I want to be?
Yeah.
How do I want to change this? And I'm going to be responsible for every decision I make moving forward because I love myself enough and I respect myself enough. For me, it was someone else loved me more at the time by that gift that triggered that I didn't even know I didn't love myself.
Absolutely. Same with me. And, I love that you're bringing this up. And I think too, pay attention to your parents and what they say. My parents live across the country, but during COVID, I actually drove home and spent 8 months with my parents. And being in my mid 40s, that was pretty intense. I was working through a lot of inner child, work at this time.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, wow. And money came up, and it was very, kind of obvious to me based off of how my parents were responding. My mom, we had bought some lottery tickets and I said, I asked everybody, what are you going to do with the money when we win? And my mom said, I don't want to win because I don't want people taking money from me. And that hit me hard because I thought, oh my goodness, is that a program within me that if I make a lot of money, that I have a fear that people will take that from me? And so I had the opportunity in that moment to consciously reprogram my thoughts around that, and then my dad said, well, I'm going to give it all away. And I thought, oh my goodness. So there's another program there, not saying giving it away is a bad thing. I'm just saying that, allowing yourself enough self-love to do something good for yourself and not feeling selfish, around that was another program that I had to kind of take a step back. So just in that little moment of, hey, it's Christmas, here's some lottery tickets, what are we going to do with it? I had these lovely programs come up that offered me the opportunity to break those generational patterns within myself. And so, just pay attention more to your family members and how they respond to things like that, and take a step back and, like you said, to consciously observe it from a third party perspective and say, wow, do I hold those belief systems, within my energetic field as well, or even in my subconscious mind? And so, Kim, I noticed this, I want to move on to this other dynamic. I noticed this other dynamic when I'm working with my EFT tapping clients. There is this correlation between money and love. And it's so funny because I'll be working with people and they'll come to me for anxiety or, something else. And healing's like an onion. So we're just peeling away the layers. And then eventually, maybe by the end of the first session or the second or third session, they're like, all right, I want to find love. And then it gets to, I want to attract money, So what are your thoughts around this correlation between, or this connection between love and money, and why we as humans seem to just have this love, for money, and how our energy around love can also attract money too?
That's a big question on many levels. I'll just say, the American culture is definitely, because we come from a capitalistic structure, that the love of money is more in our culture than perhaps in other cultures. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The bootstraps mythology of the American culture, pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Love and money. The other piece of that is that I think many people, and those are just two outstanding examples that you experienced at home with your parents.
I know.
But what it brings out is with the love of money, or the love and money, is a lot of people think to say that I love money would be like, who are you that you love money?
You're greedy. Yeah.
Right. You immediately go to the other side. And if, in fact, when I say I really do love money, if your listeners are saying you're a jerk, well, that's their money script. And it's important that if you felt that when I said I do love money, um, then recognize what is that about that holds you back, that you think it's dirty or that it's inappropriate or whatever, because you definitely have something behind that if that triggers that.
Yeah, if it triggers a dirty response. I have a tapping in my script where we tap on the thymus gland. I love money and money loves me. And you'd be surprised at how many people can't say that, or people get really excited and they're like, oh yeah, let's say that more. Let's keep saying that.
That's right.
So it's funny how you can kind of pick up on just by that simple statement, I love money and money loves me, how you can see how people get either really excited in their body or very uncomfortable in their body.
And that ultimately gets back to the energy.
Yes.
And so the energy of that money is looking for you, not the other way around, makes that easier to flip, to then go, then it's easier to say, I do love money because I love creativity. I love my ideas. I love my imagination. And when we have ideas and imagination, all of a sudden we are unlimited. And many of the ideas may be crap, but they're unlimited. So you keep coming up with more and more versus thinking money is unlimited, because money is not unlimited. Right. Yeah, you already know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's so important to really check yourself on those statements and, tune into your body. When Kim said, I love money, tune into your body. How did you feel? Did you feel restriction? Did you feel resistance? Did you feel sick? Or did you feel, oh, heck yeah, I love money too. And I'm proud of that. And so, when we talk about, money, prosperity, abundance, like you said, it's our birthright. It's our birthright to be in alignment with abundance. And however that looks. And, when I work with people, they'll say, I want to attract money to buy this. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't we work on attracting this, what you want? Let's skip over the money and see how that works.
Yes.
And, 9 times out of 10, we can actually attract something, whether it's a vehicle or I've actually had a client, they wanted this specific car and they were attracting the money to buy the car. And I said, well, let's just focus on the car. And they ended up winning the car, so I know that these things can happen. It's all like we talked about, those universal laws. And so if we're limited beliefs or we're caught up on the word money or the energy money, maybe pull yourself away from the money and focus on what it is that you truly desire and see if you can shift your feelings or thoughts around the actual energy or the word money. Because I know that can be hard for some people, especially if we've grown up in a lack or scarcity environment.
That's a really good point. I think that we don't want to ask for the money. We want to ask for the essence of what we'll have as a result of that money. So why do we want, as a matter of fact, again, it's like, oh, I want a new car. Well, why do you want a car? To have safe transportation to get to work. Well, so it's not really the car. It's the reliable transportation to work. Well, maybe there are other even better ways that will allow you to get that transportation to work that will be better for you and your outcome. So it's really important to focus on the essence. Like, I want my family to be able to live in a place that is desirable, that we could take family trips together, that we could travel internationally so that our family is more exposed to the world. The essence of that is having community, understanding the world, being more open to what's out there. The essence is the key in the receptor to having money come to you.
Absolutely. And, it's tapping into those feelings around, and ask yourself, what words come to play when you think of money? Freedom, autonomy, joy, or is it shame, guilt, pressure, stress? Ask yourself and start reframing your thoughts around that. And so I've got some very easy, just tapping statements. And I love to tap on the thymus. For those of you, if you can't see here, the thymus is right here between your heart and your chin. And, like one that I love when I pay my bills is money, 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 go out and bless the world and come back with your friends. That's one that I love.
That's a good one.
That with me. And it's really because we have an energy when we're paying bills. Oh, I got to pay these bills versus I am grateful to have money in my bank to be able to pay these bills. And as I send this money out, I open myself to allow more money to come back into my bank account. And I
love
open
that.
myself up to receiving, to allowing, whether you like the word money, abundance, prosperity,
Yep.
fill in the blank. And I love money and money loves me. That's, I love prosperity and prosperity loves me. Whatever words feel good to you, use those words. And these are simple things that you can do. And a lot of it is just the tapping is you're resetting those neurotransmitters, in the brain. And so when I would speak it out loud too, because when you're
Yes,
you're actually making it real. And you can even write it down too. Journaling is so important. So it's just reprogramming it. It takes at least 30 days to reprogram. So focus on how you feel when you pay your bills and tune into that energy. And then notice if you start to shift your mindset around it. Notice if money starts flowing in. Maybe you get a check in the mail unexpectedly, maybe a direct deposit. That happened to me. I did this when I was paying a bill and I had a random $300 direct deposit just pop into my bank account. And I'm like, where did that come from? So these are things that can happen. It's really just our energy around it and our mindset around it. So Kim, this has been such a fun conversation. I've loved every minute of this. And so how can people connect with you? Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you help your clients, and where can they find you?
Yes, they can find me at wealthlegacyinstitute.com. I wrote 2 different books, Money Secrets, Keys to Smart Investing, which pulls back the curtain on the billion-dollar financial services industry to reveal why smart people make bad investment mistakes. You can get that on Amazon. And also I wrote Retirement Secrets, Keys to Retiring Happy, Healthy, and Free. And so we actually may be able to, Tanya, get a free gift away on Financial Literacy Press.com. We have many resources on money, the 10 laws of money that every person should know. That's there and it's all free. So financialliteracypress.com for some of the listeners to grab some freebies.
Oh, I love that. And they'll love freebies too. And so, one last question. I want to talk about investing and why it can be so scary for some. I think if you're not someone like you who is tuned into that frequency of investing and whatnot, if you're someone new to this, where do you even begin? Where do you start? And why is it so scary for some?
Well, I think that Wall Street makes it scary by the words that we use and the myths that are out there, when in essence, managing money and the ability to be a part of the market is actually not scary when you look at it as a long-term process. So when you look at it as long-term and you don't do individual investments, but you do like indexing so that you own a lot, and you look at it for long-term, no one should be in the capital markets if the goal is less than 5 years. They should not have their money invested, because when you look at it in a short term, then you end up in trouble and making bad investment mistakes. Because remember, it's not the capital markets that fail, it's investors' behavior that fails.
Interesting. And it's all energy. I guess if you really look at it, it's all that energy behind it. So, well, great, Kim. This was wonderful. So all of you, check out Kim's website, wealthlegacyinstitute.com, and check out her book, Money Secrets, Keys to Smart Investing. Thank you, Kim, for all that you do. Thank you for helping people reframe our thoughts and our experiences around money. And I think this is so important because we are moving into a new, kind of a new chapter within society. And it's time for us to shift our mindset around money, around prosperity, and around abundance, because we are worthy. And we are grateful and we are appreciative for our abundant lives. And so it's time for us to change that. And so I thank you for putting this energy out. And I thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Tanya. Glad to be here.
You deserve to navigate your life in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the emotion code, visit my website at www.theexistentialempath.com.